Cashiers, has it ever happened that you judged customers for their purchases? If yes, tell us your strangest story. In my youth, I worked as a cashier for a bunch of years. Answering your question? No, I didn't give a shit. Didn't give a shit about anything. I didn't even want to be there. Even if you decided to buy gasoline and a lighter from us and told me you were going to set your mom on fire, I would only ask one question. Sir, do you need a receipt? That's exactly how it is. When my boss comes to me after a shift and asks if anyone bought products A, B, and C during the day, I usually have no idea at all. A guy buys a frozen pizza, 6 cans of Bud Light, a pint of Ben & Jerry's ice cream, and a pack of cigarettes. Me. I suppose you're having a blast while the wife is out of town? Him. My wife has been out of town for 17 years now. That was the last time I allowed myself that phrase. The only situation where I really judge someone is if a customer takes diapers, baby food, or something else that's clearly meant for a child, and then puts the item back because it turns out at the checkout that he doesn't have enough money for beer and cigarettes. I'm often in grocery stores for work. I constantly see people buying lottery tickets, cigarettes, and beer, but refuse to buy their kids some candy because they supposedly don't have the money. Let's not jump to conclusions. Maybe those cigarettes and beer were for the child too. Nah, I never judge. I once had a dude, he came in at 1 a.m., got cat food, beer, and Vaseline. While I'm scanning, he says, "Dude, it's not what you're thinking." Good times. Since I make sandwiches, I constantly judge people who order sandwiches with weird food combinations. You say you want a blueberry bagel with tomato? Well, whatever you say, man. Ironically, the last sentence doesn't sound disapproving at all. In Canadian, it means, whatever you say, you fucking pervert. When I worked in a grocery store, one evening I witnessed 2 completely polar opposite types of pre-date shopping. Guy number 1 bought a dozen roses, grapes, strawberries, and whipped cream. And right behind him, guy number 2 came in and bought pizza rolls and condoms. Personally, I judged fat people whose diet consisted solely of chips, soda, and cigarettes. I know there are a lot of people on Reddit claiming that obesity usually has nothing to do with diet, but fuck, in the 2 years I worked as a cashier, all I did was being amazed at how much crap fatasses buy for themselves and their fat kids. Damn, when you're trying to lose weight, there's nothing more important than diet. I have a completely sedentary lifestyle. I even spend all my free time sitting at the computer. I usually weigh around 82 kilograms, which is a bit much for my height, but not critical. However, as soon as I remove all sugars and preservatives from my diet, my kilograms start melting away before my eyes, and I can still sit right on my ass and do fuck all. I once had a couple who bought condoms without lubricant and a pack of butter. I could barely contain myself while scanning their items. I doubt there was a connection between these items. If the guys aren't stupid, they know that oil-based lubricants destroy latex. And if they are stupid, let them enjoy their oily baby. Anyway, I worked at Dollar General. One night, some dude burst into the store with wild confidence, and I, as expected, greeted him. He was in his own world and didn't care about formalities. He goes straight to the movie shelf, grabs some trashy kung fu movie, and comes back to me. I scan the item. The movie costs $5.46. The dude shoves his hand into his pocket and pulls out a bag of nickels, 5-cent coins, and 1 penny. This dude brought 109 nickels and 1 penny to buy some shitty movie with a title like Masters of Kung Fu, the budget of which was unlikely to exceed $100. Damn, I've never felt such respect for anyone as I did for this dude. Bro knew what he wanted, and he got it. I work in a supermarket. A dude comes in and buys $300 worth of cherries. Cleared out the entire shelf to the last cherry. They weren't even on sale. To this day, I don't understand what the hell he needed so many cherries for. I usually didn't judge anyone unless a person was buying a whole lot of some shit. My favorite client was a dude who once bought 2 cans of tuna, a large pack of disposable razors, and several jars of women's shaving cream. While I was scanning all this, I cracked up a little. The dude looked at me with a confused look. I asked, "Are you planning to shave a cat?" The guy looked at his purchases and started laughing hysterically. By the time he left the store, we were both in tears. No one else could hear us, so we looked like some mentally ill people. A similar situation happened with my stepfather. Once we picked up a small orphaned kid goat, and my stepfather went to the store to buy goat's milk and baby diapers for it. The cashier looks at the items and says, "Oh, do you have a little baby that drinks goat's milk?" Stepfather replies, "No, we have a little goat that wears diapers." Everyone laughed, but something tells me the cashier didn't believe him. A few years later, that kid goat became the favorite child in the family, successfully surpassing me and my siblings. I used to work in a very posh store selling porcelain items. We had a set where prices for tableware ranged from £2,000 for a dessert plate to £25,000 for a baking dish. Yeah. All this tableware was ugly, ornate, and wildly overpriced. If you bought anything from this set, I would definitely think you were an insensitive dickhead with more money than taste. £25,000 is about $40,000. For that kind of money, you could buy a new Audi, or a baking dish. Many years ago, I worked in a pharmacy that had a liquor department. I remember one of our customers for life, as she simply broke my heart. She was over 60, maybe even over 70, but was always very clean and neat, despite obviously having extremely limited income. She was very polite. Every morning, she came to us and bought the same set: a pint of the cheapest vodka, a can of cat food, and one lottery ticket. After about 6 months of such purchases, I decided to ask her how her cat was doing. And it turns out she never had a cat. She was buying that cat food because it was cheap and good enough to live on. I was in such shock. I couldn't even imagine that this sweet woman was eating cat food to afford a bottle of vodka and a lottery ticket. I still feel uneasy thinking about it. Thank you very much for watching. In the comments below the video, Cashiers write, has it ever happened that you judged customers for their purchases? And if yes, tell us your strangest story. And don't forget to check out our other episodes. Bye.